Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Command Stack. I'm Ken,
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Ryan.
and welcome to our first episode since an interesting announcement coming from Atomic Mass Games about 2 weeks ago. We wanted to give a little bit of time so that we get perspective, make sure that we had an opportunity to see what was going on before we really put out a podcast. John right now is in Bacta tanks, probably, or he's shipping Bacta, one of the two. I haven't figured out which. Um, And to go along with stuff from Adepticon, he's probably working with Tico Celshu. So uh, stay tuned for more shorts and a video on the Iron Radio YouTube channel for that.
I do.
How are you guys doing?
Man, all things considered, pretty good, Ken. I feel like the weight is lifted off the impending doom shoulder that has been looming for like 4 years. So
Yeah.
we're just moving forward now. All full steam ahead.
I'm all right. I got my first like live Armada game in since Worlds this past Friday with Garrett and his Lexington crew, and I destroyed Garrett. And then
Boarding
I played
troopers.
I played a new player. Shout out to Aaron, a new player in this game. Right? He's literally only has 14 games under his belt, and he wiped the floor with me and destroyed me.
Akbar.
So and the good, the thing is, playing Armada just makes me want to play more Armada. Like just go do it, and I'm ready to get a couple more games in.
Isn't that great? You play Armada, you want to play more Armada. It's a fun game. It really is.
Yeah,
I
it's a
actually
shame.
had, go ahead.
It's a shame development got canceled.
Well, I mean, in a way,
We'll never had development.
well, in a way, that's a good thing, though, because all of a sudden there's all these new players that want to play the game, and there's a lot of interest in it, which is kind of cool. This past weekend, not this past weekend, the weekend before, I had an opportunity to go out to local game store. I tried a crazy Admiral Akbar list because I just wanted to do something funny. I had to use the Home One title, and I was able to successfully use it along with a set on an MC80 with a set of MC30s with quad turbo laser cannons to get a whole bunch of double accuracy shots out the side of an MC30. Best part. So I got to play two games. The first game I played against Adrian. Now he wound up winning that game. But I did manage to get one of the MC30s right in between his two Gazantes, did an Akbar slash, and blew both of them up in one activation. And they were fresh Gazantes. So
Man, that's where the
an
money
Akbar
is.
slash is possible. It didn't go very well for that MC30. But
If only Home One gave your own ship an
if
accuracy.
if it did, the story for the game would have been a lot different. I think Adrian I had 7 of the 11 hull on his ISD gone, and I think 6 of the 10 on his onager. So if Home One could have thrown another accuracy in there, I probably would have had at least taken out the ISD.
Yes. Home one missed opportunities of improving titles.
Yeah,
There,
too bad.
True. And that's the downside to the game is it seemed like to me when it got moved over, it seemed like Fantasy Flight had a plan that may have gotten transferred to Atomic Mass, and nothing happened with it, which is kind of unfortunate. Did get rapid reinforcements, which helped out a little bit, and we've got some neat stuff that's come out of rapid reinforcements 1 and 2. But there's so much more that that game could really have that I would love to explore moving on, especially in the Clone Wars area. We had Schick on the channel saying that he knew that there were ships that could come out for it, and I could think of probably about 4 or 5 right off the top of my head that you could see.
I
But
mean,
alas,
look, I don't have much more to say on this, more than what a lot of other podcasters and content creators have said. Um, they I agree with a lot of what they've said on it. I do want to say it's such a game of missed opportunities, I guess. Garrett and I always have this conversation of like, why is there should not be a single ship in the game of X-Wing that is not in Armada. They shouldn't the Trident, whatever the Trident separatist ship is
Yeah.
that is in X-Wing. They made it the epic scale in X-Wing.
Yeah.
Never got never got brought over to Armada. And I think the idea is always we think of, oh, actually, this is the first thing I want to say. Look, none of us know what the contracts are. None of us know what the economics are. None of us really know the behind the scenes, what factory in China this is made and how expensive the boxes are. We don't have that information. So, take all of these comments with a grain of salt because there's a lot of information we just don't know.
Right.
But knowing the game, like we do, seeing, people who just last, Friday come by and marvel at the ships on the table and want to watch our, Armada when Garrett and I are playing, there was an appetite for this game, right? And they just starved it. They just, with no developmental opportunities. And the one thing I wanted to say is we always think of this game as a four faction game, and it really could be 12 when you really go back and you think, I think the thinking of, oh, this is a four faction game really kind of shrinks what the game could have been always in my mind. And we could have had, like Garrett has in the background there, the Haps battle dragon, right? You could have had a Haps faction. You could have had an Imperial Warlord faction. You could have had a Scum faction.
Yeah.
And
the Pirates, man. Pirates are such a freaking seller.
Right. You could have had huts. There's not a single hut in the game, even though they occupy like 10% of the galaxy or something. That's the biggest disappointing thing for me is that there was so much left on the table. There's no, as Garrett and I have this conversation, I feel like, every couple of weeks, there's no Chewbacca. There's like,
no R2D2.
What are we? No R2D2, no C3PO. There's so much on the table. And I think it's a failing once it got transferred to AMG. I think it's a failing of being curious. I think it's they weren't able to be curious and see the creativity that could be in the game. And so I think it's just they weren't creative and they weren't able to see where they could move into the game and make their changes. That's my monologue. That's my feelings on it.
It's well said. I don't know. I try and be like super positive, which I'm sure like annoys some people, but like, don't worry. Like I try and keep all of my negative offline, but yeah, like, there's just simple things like different ship versions with existing production models could have went so far to expand on factions and like add little mini factions. Not everything out of the game has to be 27 expansions. Like a 4-ship faction like we have now in the Separatists, right? Like functions great. 4 pirate ships, and then like the ability to convert like an acclimator, I don't know, to a black something, all that kind of stuff. So it's just a real bummer. But now, all right, and we'll talk about it later. It's time to go forward. We've got what is it? The runway now, I guess.
Well, there's a lot that's happening between now, and we should point out right now, today, July 2nd, the game is still supported by Atomic Mass Games, and it will continue to be supported through Worlds 2025.
Right.
So
organized play.
Organized play. Yeah. I mean, they've made it clear that development is no longer happening. And it seems that I may have misread the Asmodee statement, but I think they said they're not making any more models for it either.
No, they're
clearly
done.
If you can get your hands on something, go do it. Although at this point, we're probably well beyond the point where you can get some new stuff. I know that locally, our store still has a handful of starter sets. So if you can, grab them.
I'm going to say one thing real on that, Ken. And Garrett brought this up to me. On the starter sets, I almost bought a starter set for Republic because I don't have Republic. But I thought he brought up a good idea. Like I'm an experienced player. I have a full 2 factions, 3 factions of ships. I don't need the starter set. Maybe leave the starter set if you can. If it's all the same to you, leave the starter set for a new player. Because there's only so many of those left, and it's essential for the new players to kind of have something like that. You can get into the game without a starter set, but just
Yeah. So if you leave the starter sets on a new player has all the components needed in one of the starter sets, and they can go to the moon from there with used stuff.
Just an idea.
Yeah.
I'm not going to begrudge you if you buy a starter set, but just, you know,
Or if
But
you
yeah,
have one and you're an experienced player, give like the rulers, the maneuver tools and stuff to a new player. I mean, like literally, here's some dials, here's some ships. I don't need to have 8 consular C70s and 4 acclimators. So I
you
mean,
know what?
you can hand
Let's
stuff
do an
over.
Ion Radio giveaway or command stack giveaway right now. I got an extra damage deck. If there's a new player who wants a damage deck, be the first one to put it in the comments. I will mail it out to you free of charge. I got like 5 of them. You know, if just tell me you're a new player and you know you need a damage deck.
Wow.
love
Okay,
it.
so we have a giveaway live, well, kind of live, but we're gonna see who gets that. So stay
Damage
tuned,
thing.
folks.
But yeah, so we're talking about purchasing. So right now, a lot of people's collections are changing hands. The obvious easiest way to get in this game right now is buy somebody's collection,
Yeah.
which I don't feel bad about saying anymore because games not being printed anymore. So buy a used collection. It's the best bang for your buck. Things are going to cool down. I've already noticed. I was looking on eBay. Things are starting to trend back down. It's still outrageous. Okay, do not buy a Venator for $400. Stop. They're gonna get cheaper. I think they're selling it like sub 400 now, used for 250. Still, that's too much. Okay. These models are
Although
great, but not $300 great.
talk about a missed opportunity. If Asmodee Atomic Mass did one final print run of a lot of these,
Oh my
it could have
gosh.
tripled the price and people would have paid for it.
Well, this just proves that like if you were to produce this game, they just didn't know what the market price was.
Right.
We've been operating on a 2015 market price, when people thought, $15 was a lot for like a fully painted X-wing model.
Yeah.
I remember people being like really mad they went to $25 per
Yeah.
squadron, but those are just bonkers low prices, right? For what it is in 2000, nearly 25. But yeah, so purchasing used collections. Listen, I've said it on other places. Kravik has said it. Scammers. Everybody, I cannot say this enough. If it's too good to be true, it's not real. Okay, just move on. If you're getting something for MSRP or below, you need to physically be able to get it from them, like in person, exchange cash and the box. That stuff happens, but you're not going to run into it from some random guy on Facebook. Like it's just rare. So please, when you're selling stuff for $400 for one expansion, people are going to be scamming it as hard as possible.
And people have been scammed, so just be careful out there. Just be smart about it.
Next thing I want to talk about is check out all these game stores. All right, go in there, check their dusty old corner. All right, you might find some gems. There's a guy on Discord I talk to a lot, Jacob up in Ohio, and he found a Venator at MSRP in some random local game store in Northern Ohio. What a find, right? Like
It's
last
like
week.
a gold bar.
Yeah, no, it's right. Like instead of spending at one point they were going for $600 on eBay. So yeah. Anyways, check the stores out. I think Gamers Guild in Arizona still has stock. I think our assumption is they bought Asmodee's warehouse. There's like no way. I don't know where they found all this stuff. They are shipping orders. I haven't got my shipment notification. I ordered some last minute stuff, and it's been a couple weeks, but they're just entirely overwhelmed. They've probably sold more Armada stock by themselves than anybody else, like nationally.
Wow.
Like they probably set a record for themselves.
The market will cool. There are thousands of Imperial Star Destroyers on this planet.
Yes,
right?
10 years. They've been printing this stuff. Well, okay. They've been printing stuff for 8 years. But there's 8 years of ISDs out there. Some people have 30 of them. They might let one go. I don't know.
Yeah,
I do not
just
have
be patient.
30, just for the record.
But yeah, anything else on purchasing? There's stuff to buy. So don't panic. Like this stock is not going to disappear. It's a pre-painted Star Wars ship game. And there's no other Star game to play unless you're playing Star Wars pocket models from 2007. So
I don't know if you guys have observed this, and it's so sad that it kind of took this for to have a kind of like a mini renaissance in the game. But I see all these people are posting on Facebook and whatnot and be like, hey, I bought I used to buy all this stuff. I never played a game. I saw it's canceled. I'm gonna go play a game. Where can I go to? Right?
Yeah.
Like it is there's an appetite for a Star Wars ship game, and unfortunately, with all the miniature lines going to AMG, there's now going to be no star, and I'm not the first one to say this, right? But there's no star in Star Wars anymore. There's no space combat in Star Wars. It's just land wars, which isn't as good of a name as Star Wars.
Right.
I
People. I'm sorry, Ken.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say people always bring this argument up to me where they're like, "Oh, well, Darth Vader is recognizable." I'm like, the first scene of Star Wars is two ships. I like that is gonna sell, and it does sell. And Ryan made sure I remember this, but these games, X-Wing and Armada, haven't been advertised properly in like more than half a decade, right? And all of a sudden, in the last month, because every podcast is talking about it, because this is a huge deal, people are, for the first time, a lot of them are finding out there's a pre-painted Star Wars game in space, and they're going to go look it up. And that's where a lot of people are coming across, like, the big Armada Facebook, the Reddit for Armada, Discord, Ion Radio, all these things. And they're like, wait a second, this game exists? And there's some people who, weren't old enough to play in 2015, and now they're coming of age at like 18, 20 years old. Now they still like Star Wars. We still got movies coming out, shows coming out. Well, like, what are we doing? Right? Like, advertise.
Right. There was no, you never, I mean, we weren't even at Gen Con in 20.
Right.
Did we lose Ryan? I think we lost.
Oh, I see. He's cut out. But what he's saying was like, Armada wasn't at Gen Con last year.
No.
Like, why? Why weren't we there? Right.
Right. What a great time to advertise your game at the largest convention, gaming convention that there is.
Right.
It's, and that's where we say, like, look, we were, our Armada just never had minimal effort into trying to. That's not fair. I won't say that. That's not fair. But I understand it was an expensive game to make. I certainly understand that. But it's like, man, a little bit goes a long way in terms of advertising this game. Demoing this game. When's the last time FFG or AMG demoed the game somewhere?
Star Wars Celebration, 2019.
Yeah, Gen Con.
I know they were doing it there.
Gen Con, when I picked up my Rebellion in the Rim expansion when it came out, was the last time I saw a demo table for either of those games.
Yeah.
Right. So,
well, I think
those are all fair criticisms.
I think a lot of it ended right around COVID, because it was starting to get some steam again, because Clone Wars launch was ready to come out, and COVID hit, and
private equity firms, baby.
And that I think hurt more than anything else, which predates a lot of other things.
Yeah, private equity.
And that it did what it did, and I think we're in the state we are now. But the good news, like I said, is the game is still supported, and there's a lot of events. And I think it's important that as Armada players, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably an Armada player. Go to the QTs, go to the big tournaments, and definitely show up to Adepticon in Milwaukee in 2025, because you really want to showcase how much love there is for this game. And there's a lot. And this is a really unique game. I've played several different space combat games. I'm going to steal a few here, and I think Garrett might laugh a little bit, but stuff from Firestorm Armada to Full Thrust, and Starfleet battles, and the Star Trek Attack Wing game. It's all the way down to Armada, and even the original Star Wars Starship Battles game that came out. I think that was Wizards of the Coast.
Well, it was like a sub game of Star Wars miniatures,
right? Which John and I do have an episode of that. If you look back to one of our April 1st videos, I think it was 2020 or 2021. So check it out. It was actually a good laugh that we had playing that. And that's probably the first full game that I have played with the plethora of miniatures I have for that. Anyway, um,
I do want to circle back to your point though, Ken. I do encourage people to participate in this OP season. If you have the means and ability
yeah.
to go to a GT, I fully support you going. It will be a great experience. I would love for Armada, kind of as a last hurrah, to have great numbers and just be like, look, guys, look what you lost here,
Right. And
because
and I want to say, to be clear, if you not like if you're like gonna stick a line of sand, like I'm not gonna go because I don't want to support what they did to Armada. The only people you're punishing is the TOs who organize these things.
Yeah.
And put a lot of times a lot of their own money and time into setting up these events. So please go, because you're not punishing Asmodee. They don't care. The only people who are
no.
hurting are the people who organize these things.
Speaking of organized, stay tuned. More information is going to be coming out on this. But beginning of October, if you're in the Chicagoland area, rumor has it, and details are going to be coming soon, that the Chicagoland group, which is roughly 110 players, is going to be putting on a Star Wars Armada tournament somewhere in the area. Again, kind of beginning of October is what I'm hearing. Stay tuned. Adrian is kind of organizing that. He's got another friend of his that is working on that. But if you watched our coverage from Worlds, you know who Adrian is.
Yeah, awesome guy. And yeah, I mean, that's going to be a huge tournament, probably bigger than any Armada event outside of Adepticon. It's probably worth the drive.
And there may be some streaming going on there too. So stay tuned on that.
I hope so, Ken. I'd
But
question if not.
speaking of streaming, it's worth noting that we are going to be at Adepticon 2025 streaming once again. So that'll be our third run at it. I think we'll actually be good at it this time, guys.
Well, we have a telestrator.
Yes, I have fixed that. It's working now. I figured out what I needed. I needed one piece of equipment. So you can get your John Madden on, Ryan.
All right.
This time, if it doesn't happen, I don't know, we'll flake in live on air.
I mean, it'll be good. It'll be great to be back. I mean, Armada is Adepticon is a really great time. It's just really fun to get together with your friends and hang out and play some games, and it's almost to a point casual in a sense, in a sense of like, just have a great time. There's serious portions and whatnot. People are flying across the country, the world to play, but there's so many talented players who come. That it's just a good time to meet people. And this last season where we had store championships was a really great kind of, I don't know, Worlds was a finale to that because you had, invites and whatnot.
Right.
This Worlds is open.
Mm-hmm.
So all you have to do is get a ticket, and be able to afford it, which I certainly understand. It's not cheap. But if you can afford it, it'll be worth your time. Come say hi to Ken, Garrett, and I, and John, and Adrian. We'll be there, and the other people that are voices of the Armada community will be there as well, and come say hi to them too.
Yeah, there's so many cool people, and I cannot stress this enough. People, get hotels right now as soon as you can.
Granted, Adepticon's 9 months away.
Yeah,
you need your hotels right now.
Yeah, just
but
take them up closer the better.
Yeah, but get them now, right? Exactly. And since we're talking about Adepticon, because this is another reason I think people are tuning in to this particular podcast. So about a week ago, maybe not even. I think when did I release that, on Friday?
Yeah.
Friday
news dump.
We did a news dump on Friday. I've been talking with the folks that run Adepticon, and they were absolutely adamant after hearing the news that Atomic Mass Games and Asmodee are no longer going to directly support X-Wing and Armada for tournament play and whatnot after Worlds next year, that he believes in still having a Worlds event at Adepticon in 2026. So I've been having a couple conversations with them to kind of make sure that we have a good community run event that ends there, which is effectively going to become a tournament season. So that's part of the press release that's was released. It's linked in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, and we'll make sure it's in the comments on all the different podcast sites as well, if you want to read the whole thing. But in a nutshell, what we're looking to do is create a tournament series that'll start after the game is no longer supported and end at the following Adepticon. And we're going to be working We are working with different TOs and event organizers to make sure this happens. Now, the big thing that's important with any level of tournament play like this are the rules, and make sure there's a level of consistency. So if you go to event A, B, or C, it's all the same rule set. So what we're doing is partnering up with a group that is still kind of being formed right now called the Armada Rule Set Collective, or ARC, who's going to be kind of making sure here's a standardized set of rules. We're not looking at changing anything right away. There might be a tweak here or there as things come up. So like, for example, if we get a Rapid Reinforcements 3 from Atomic Mass Games tomorrow, and I don't know that we're going to get one, so don't quote me if we don't get one or do. If we do get one, it's clearly I knew about it, and if we don't, then I'm just making things up. But let's assume for the moment we get like a Rapid Reinforcements 3, and we have a repeat of Anakin. If there's no change to that, this is something that group would have to go in and say, all right, we need to fix this to make it better for the tournament season moving forward. Because Anakin's initial release was not good for Star Wars Armada, but got fixed in the errata a couple months later. So that's the kind of thing that initially this group's going to be looking at doing. And this group's going to be reaching out along with Ion Radio to the different TOs, again, like I said, the event organizers, and trying to get everyone to agree this is the right way to move forward so that you have a consistent tournament experience regardless of where you go. And I'm not just talking about the Chicagoland area. I'm not talking about the Midwest. I'm not talking about the US. I'm talking about folks that I've talked to from Canada. I've talked to some of the guys from Team Poland. Mars and I have been talking down in Australia. So we're going around the world to make sure that everyone is at least getting in contact to know what we're trying to do. That does not mean that I'm going to have a team of 700 different TOs saying this is what we are and are not going to do, because then you run into the too many chefs in the kitchen problem. So this group is going to be somewhat more limited, and more information on who is in that group and their specific role is going to come out over the next coming weeks. There's a few things we can't talk about yet. A lot of that relates to the fact that right now, Atomic Mass Games still supports the game. So we have to be cognizant of that. We have to follow their existing IP policy, because the last thing we want to do is violate that in some way and this entire effort goes away. That's something we are intentionally going to make sure we're going to stick to the rules and follow that to the letter. But we're also doing everything that we can to make sure we're ready to go as soon as support ends on that game. So that's kind of the big picture. I think I hit all the points. What do you guys think? Did I forget something?
No, I think you're right. I think it's just important to know that, Armada is already a really, rock solid game. And we just don't want to run into a situation where you go and meet new people at another tournament and you're both playing two different games.
Right.
So the whole idea is to keep everything unified and on the same page. Again, there's no wrong way to play classic ships, but there's a right way to play it at a competitive tournament. And so we're just trying to keep it all on the same playing field. And one document you can source and look at is how we want to do it. But yeah, and then our job as content creators is to everyone who supports this effort going forward is everyone reports the same stuff. That way, when people come to listen to Armada content, everyone's saying the same ideas.
Right.
No confusion. I'm sorry, Ryan.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight. So there will be a slow roll because we still have a full season of organized play. But Ken has confirmed that there will be a championship event at Adepticon in 2026. Is that right?
Yes. So as of right now, the plan is to have a tournament at Adepticon 2026 that is going to be community run. And ideally that goes on beyond that.
So like 2027 would be beyond that?
2027 would be great.
2028, maybe.
2028, I
Ken
had
squirming now.
someone asked if we would have it in 2050. And I said, my hair is going to be a lot more white, but if we can, we will. So,
Hey, if people show up by the Adepticon pass, we could make this happen.
and
It,
you hit the nail on the head. This is why it's so important and critically important for people to go this year, to show that to the folks at Adepticon, hey, there are a lot of people still interested in playing this game, and we want to continue this. And
I,
that first year we're running it, same thing. The more people that show up, the more interest there is, the more likely Adepticon will be to work with us to give us space and everything else so that we can continue to have these great tournaments and side events as well. So, I mean, when I'm talking about Adepticon, some of the conversations that I can't get into a lot of it yet because it's all still kind of being figured out. But if things happen in a good positive way, we're talking worlds, we're talking side events. Like the team championship was a great seller last year. I would love to be able to do that again under a community run situation.
so I do want to highlight because I give a proper shout out to Adepticon here because they are majorly stepping up, doing things that they don't have to do, right? To make money, to support Star Wars Armada and X-Wing, right?
Yes,
They
and
are
it's X-Wing too.
really stepping up to support our games. Would not be possible without them.
No, definitely not. So big kudos to them for even offering and starting the conversations.
yeah, it's absolutely huge. And it gives us just an air of like, what's it called? The Armada community has a place to go.
Mhm.
It's, we don't have to rent a warehouse. We have a designated spot on Adepticon, the world's best miniatures gaming convention.
Yeah.
I got the Zachary Tyler Legion Hall over here, right across the street. We could hold worlds if you wanted to in Louisville.
Everyone,
So
everyone throws in $500.
post 985 or something. I'm sure we could rent it out.
Do you rent out rooms, Ryan?
I got a
Little
big
Airbnb.
basement, as you guys can see. So, all right. So that's the announcement. That's our plan.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to note here is that we have one, that we are working with the community to make sure that we can make it into a reality. And there's a lot of work yet to be done for this. So, I mean, it's not like I can snap my fingers and say, okay, we're ready to go. I mean, there's a lot of prep work, and I'm sure a lot of time and effort's going to be put in by, the three of us here on the podcast. I know John's going to be helping out a lot, and I'm sure there'll be a big community effort from tournament organizers, from the judges, that'll be helping us out. And maybe even a handful of names that I'm not going to get into yet, but that would just help in this effort. And I want to do a quick shout out to everyone that supported our initial release to say that we're going to be doing this and that they believe in us. And I want them to know that we are going to be taking every step possible to keep them involved where we can. And then obviously making sure that we try our best to not disappoint anybody.
Yeah.
Although it's hard to make everyone happy sometimes, but
Yeah, and I want to say, like, there's a lot of you out there. If we didn't contact you, it was not a on purpose didn't contact. Actually, contact us if you would like to, endorse it and be part of the effort going forward. Because like, if we missed you, it wasn't on purpose. So if you feel like, oh, I'm a TO and I organize stuff and we don't know, let us know, right?
Yeah.
Because in 2025, 2026, when we're doing the community OP season, like we want to have all that information to be gathered in one spot.
Yeah.
Instead of, scattered across 5 different things. It's kind of like, Ryan's old store championship Google Earth map, but something like a little more, what's it called? Official looking. I don't know. But yeah. So anyways, Ken, let's talk about what everyone's really excited about. Plans post Worlds. What can you say on the spot? What are we doing?
Well, we're clearly working on something. I think this is where I'm going to disappoint people. There are a lot of things that I would love to say because there are things I do know that we're talking about behind the scenes. I do know some of the core people that are currently involved, and then there are other folks that uh, either have not been reached out to directly or I have not been able to talk to specifically on things for certain reasons. And that's all I can say at this stage.
Yeah. What I
So I apologize that I'm going to disappoint everyone, but again, I've had a lot of different people from different parts of the world reach out, really wanting to make sure that their events are a part of this. And I think that's the key is that I'm listening to everyone that's giving their opinions and suggestions. And I'm starting to catalog all these different places where we can say, okay, here's where we want to make sure people know this is where you can go play Armada at a competitive level and get all that out to people. The reality is, until the day that Atomic Mass and Asmodee say, okay, our hands are clean, we're not doing it anymore, which my understanding is right after Adepticon, although I think there might be one or
No,
two
no.
GPs after, right?
Richmond Open.
The Richmond Open will be the last official AMG FF, Asmodee tournament, which I just think is, I don't know, it's kind of funny.
Because that's in
It's in
May.
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 It's May the fourth weekend.
So,
In Virginia, in case somebody's wondering.
so
Yeah, great tournament, by the way. Like
Yeah.
last hurrah.
So it'll probably be closer to then, but my guess is some information's going to come out probably in April, if not like the day after Worlds. But a lot of
Yeah.
that, again, until we get to that point in about 9 months, some stuff's going to get released before that. But a lot of it's probably going to have to wait until closer to then. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll give you the teases here and there. Stay tuned to Command Stack and Ion Radio as we get closer to that date.
And I want to say, so obviously, like we know more than we knew last year. And we know that we're going to have a community organized OP season. Awesome. And we are getting this rule set collective put together to keep the game unified and on track. And that, the game's not going to be in some stasis bubble for eternity. So obviously after Worlds, we're going to go forth as community and, make sure the game stays fresh. Does that make sense? So there's no reason to like fear that nothing is ever going to happen ever again, is what I want to say.
The big key is this group that we're working with is here to keep the integrity of the game and keep the game alive. And that, I think, are two very noble efforts. And it's not an easy thing. And there's a lot that has to be considered with anything is going to get changed or even looked at for a minor adjustment. Because the thing with Armada is, okay, sure, let's say we can change Han Solo to be 10 points and make Ryan really happy. But what impacts does that have to the rest of the squadrons? What
Right.
does
None.
impact? Well,
None. Great.
but decimators are awesome. They should be, have extra dice on them, and that'd be great. And assault concussion missiles should be allowed to, fire every single black dice shot and ignore PDICs just because I like to use them. But that's not what we're going to be doing. It's anytime.
I think, yeah, it will still be Armada.
It will
Yeah.
100% be Armada. Because
That's
as soon
the whole
as you start
goal.
changing things at a bigger scale, it ceases to become Armada. And that is, I think, the hardest part.
Right. And then and when we say keep the game alive, I think that's even more so on the actual TO's backs. Because keeping the game alive is not just, providing stuff for you to play with at home. Getting people to come out to tournaments and even to stores to play this game is, when it's a dead game and not exciting with fresh releases every 30 minutes, is a monumental task.
Yeah.
And we're helped a lot because it is a property that's, the most popular sci-fi property on the planet. So we've got a huge thing helping us. But yeah, so what I'm trying to say is, if you have nobody to play with, same task as before, you got to do community outreach and try to tell people about this game. Because once people see it, they're like, holy crap, what is that?
And this game, the table presence it has, not to diminish other games. And X-Wing's got great table presence. But if you've got a bunch of scum ships that you aren't familiar with because you've only seen the movies, you may not recognize the game. Versus Armada, how many games of Armada do not have at least Mon Cal cruiser of some sort or a Star Destroyer on the board?
Right.
You're going to recognize something on that table. And if you've got an SSD on the table, that's just an even bigger draw. And like you guys were saying, people came up to you while you guys were playing at the store because they saw what you guys were doing and they recognized it immediately as Star Wars. And if I had a nickel for every time I'm playing the game at a store, and folks are like, "That is so cool."
It happens every time I've ever played, ever.
Yeah.
And it all demographics, right? Kids, ladies who are there with their son looking at games. They're like, "What is this?" Because they know it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
And when those opportunities come up, think of it as an opportunity. Look, the game is it's obviously wasn't not a good announcement, but to get that, it's a gut punch. But if someone comes up and says, "Hey, what's this game?" Just engage with them for a second, and just tell them about, oh, this is this great game, Star Wars Armada. It's a fleet game. It's really fun, and you don't have to do much more than that. But I see the community's doing a really good job with this on Facebook and other places lately of connecting people with communities.
Yeah.
Especially people who have come out of the woodwork and said, "Hey, I do want to get a game in. I'm in Syracuse. Where do I go?" I was like, "Oh, there's a tournament in Buffalo or whatnot." I think just keep connecting people, and we'll see. I mean, we'll see what we can make of it. We're gonna give it a go.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to say, because we're talking about playing in stores, listen, obviously you can't buy Armada anymore. So when you go to these stores, buy stuff, other items, snacks, coffee, other games. Yeah, right. You can't see, I got a giant shelf behind me. But you got these stores aren't operating on hopes and dreams. They need money.
Yeah.
So keep supporting them. And that's really all I got, because they're not running a charity.
No.
And our tables take up a lot of room. I'm going to be totally open with you guys. Like when we play Armada at our local store, we're half the store. And there's only 10 of us, right?
I have bought about 10 Hot Wheels for my my 2-year-old son who loves them. My last couple of trips to the store because they sell it, right? And
yeah,
trying to support the store.
Yeah. And I'm always buying candy from them, and I'm clearly involved in several other games. Ignore the stuff on the shelves.
Ken, you haven't bought anything. I don't know what you're talking about. this wall, the wall behind you is
it's one of those backgrounds that it's if I went to go reach it, I'd disappear. I'm sure that would happen.
1970s deep.
Yes.
There's a lot of lore back there.
Well, I don't know. I think the Twilight Imperium box is a little bit newer than that. Although, is it that? Can you just see it? The shelf over here.
Yeah, I figured he had Starfleet battles over there or something.
Oh, no, that's over there.
But anyways, so yeah, so the future looks bright, honestly, as bright as it ever has. And everybody, again, there's 10 years of products in the wild. It's a lot of stuff. So yeah. And if you are still trying to find communities, like we said, reach out on any of these platforms. Someone's going to probably respond. And if they don't respond, don't give up. Ask again. But yeah, what do you want to talk about next, Ken?
Well, I think it's important for us to also say that Command Stack's not going anywhere anytime soon. We've got a lot of Armada to talk about, a lot of tournaments, GTs, Worlds next year. And then as we move into a community-supported organized play system in a tournament series, I suspect we're going to still be talking about the game for a while. And I think that's important. So to know that we're still going to be around.
Right. It's still the only Star Wars fleet game available. So I'm not going anywhere because that's what I like.
I think we're at Ryan's favorite segment. We're going to do it on this podcast too. I love this segment, Ryan, because it's great. So we're going to we're going to go into what have we been playing. So,
Ken, oh my God, Ken, it's what else have we been playing?
well, I've been,
Totally different concept.
yeah, yeah. What else? Yeah, that's right. What else have we been playing? Right. Because otherwise I'd say Star Wars Armada, right? So,
Right.
Ryan, what else have you been playing?
So I haven't played it yet, but I'm a glutton for punishment for buying into games that have died, quote unquote died. And I bought into HeroScape, um, which was dead for a decade.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I just found out that they restarted it, and they've restarted it. So I bought the new set that's coming
Mhm.
out in like October or August. We have a very vibrant Louisville group of HeroScapers. For some reason, I always see them at the game store I play, run by Tommy, who plays a lot of X-Wing and plays Armada every now and then, if you know him. But I bought into HeroScape. It looks cool. It looks like a fun little skirmish kind of game, and it looks fairly simple, kind of. So I was like, I need another game. I haven't, I played some Warhammer, and it's just kind of, it's fine, but to go and like play a system that I don't really know the rules that well, like Warhammer. It's like a 4 hour commitment, and I just don't have that time, right? Whereas Garrett and I can play, a game of Armada in like an hour,
Yeah.
so it moves a little differently. So I bought into HeroScape. It is actually by Renegade Games now.
Mhm.
Um, it's funny because we have HeroScape is a, traditionally a pre-painted miniatures game, and in the release, AMG and Asmodee both talked about pre-painted, the cost of pre-painted miniatures. And again, I don't know the factories, I don't know who's doing the painting, but they HeroScape is offering, or Renegade Games is offering for HeroScape a pre-painted option and a non-painted option, which I think is so
Saw
cool.
that. That looked neat. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so. I'm going to buy the non-painted option because I like painting my ships or my figures. But I thought it's like I've never seen like that option available before from a company. So I thought it was cool. So
Yeah.
I have not played it, but I will play HeroScape at some point. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I want to say, as far as the economies of pre-painted ships, just Star Trek Attack Wing still makes expansions, and Into the Unknown is still coming out. That's all I'll say on it. That's all I'll say on it.
So someone's figured
Pre-painted
out how to
ships,
do it. So
yes, at a smaller scale of economy or whatever. It's not as popular, but whatever. I have been playing Star Wars Unlimited. It's like my first, I guess, TCG or whatever it's called. It's been pretty fun. There's another big release coming up. I got into it kind of late, but that's what I've been fiddling with when I got time. And then there's another game, a skirmish game. It's called Cyberpunk, like
Yeah.
Combat Red or whatever. It's pretty cool too. It's kind of interesting because my first game was Armada, like proper, like real tabletop game. It's been interesting delving into these other aspects of the hobby. So
what is
yeah,
Cyberpunk? Is it like a figurine kind of?
yeah. So it's a small skirmish type game where you just battle over objectives on a smaller size map. I mean, it's got a cool mechanics like person dies, you can like loot them and stuff. Kind of neat, kind of like a video game, which I guess
Cool.
it's probably what it's related to.
There is a
Cyberpunk
Cyberpunk video game. Is it like 2099 or something like that?
2077, I think.
Something like
Yeah,
that. I forget the specific year, but
but yes. What about you, Ken? What else have you been playing?
There you go.
this past weekend I got involved in yet another six-player Twilight Imperium fourth edition game, and that was a blast. We were about 7 hours into it, getting to the end game. Two players potentially going to win it. And I finally got a War Sun out on the table. Made me feel really good. And I was going to have a turn where I was going to get, I think it was 5 victory points because of how I laid things out. And I was really excited to be able to pull that off. And it would have put me in contention for the next turn to maybe win the game. And a couple trades occurred, and someone kind of blasted out of the midfield and won the game before the round was even over. So In one way, you're disappointed because you know you could have gotten those extra points. By the same token, this is where sheer skill and diplomacy in this game really shines, and sometimes it works out for you, and sometimes it doesn't. But it was a lot of fun. Plus, you get to deal with your friends for a long time. It's a commitment to play Twilight Imperium.
Yeah, getting 6 people together for 7 straight hours to play one game is astonishing.
Well, there was food involved, so that
Yeah,
helped.
food and liquor.
But we had a good time, and actually, we've been talking about this on our own chats behind the scenes. But we really need to get the command stack crew, so the two of you, me and John, together to play, and because Twilight Imperium does not work great with four. We need like one or two extra players to kind of
I've
jump.
never played it. I don't even know the rules. I have.
Oh, then
It's so much.
it's a great game. It's not a game. It really is not. It is an experience, I think is the best way to put it. Because what I can say is every time I've played Twilight Imperium, it is an epic, sprawling, galaxy-wide conquest game. That
Can we have like a
story.
side table at Adepticon in 2025 where that is just a game, and so like over the course of like 5 days we like play it? I don't know. I don't know if that's possible or not. Like just
I
like
mean,
just not on a
good.
table. And everyone's like, "What's this game here?" Oh, it's the Ion Radio Twilight
Yeah.
Imperium game.
So
The-
the only thing there is, I'm going to go on record saying our streaming table may not be big enough to host 6 players on.
we can get more.
Oh, okay.
We'll
I
find
All right.
more.
I
Usually
clearly
we
don't
have a
know
couple side
what we're dealing
tables.
with here.
It's a big game. The board itself fits on a 3x3 mat. It's all the space for everything else that you have. And
There's so much stuff.
there is,
just
but it's a
stuff.
great game. It's a
Yeah,
great game.
Garrett's like it's a fine game.
Well, I don't know. It's probably good. My limited experience was being the new player who got, I guess, taken advantage of in trades because I don't know, right? So, and then they're like, "Oh, well, he won because he traded." I'm like, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know what's important. I'm just
It's
trying to
one of
like
those.
move on to this system over here, and you just say I can't.
It's one of those things where the best way to learn the game, and I had one game a couple years ago where it was 4 of the 6 players were new players. And what we wound up doing was playing 2 rounds. And I said, just bear with me and go along with it. Don't think too much because we're going to end the game. We got through 2 rounds. I said, okay, everyone have an idea how this game plays out? And everyone's like, yeah, now I think I got it. And then the question is, do you want to keep going or do you want to restart? Almost everyone's like, let's restart because I want to try something completely different. But you got to go through that first 2 hours of playing the game to get all the little nuances to then play an 8-hour game. Now, having said that, I think 8 hours might be a little long for people that know what they're doing. But for new players, it's gonna take a lot longer to get through that game. But it's worth the day if you've got you and a handful of your good buddies. It's going to be something you'll talk about during, after, and years later.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
It is.
Speaking of giant complex board games, Ryan and I need to play Star Wars Rebellion.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of games we could like play during streaming, we could probably do that. We could probably figure that out. Yes. Yes. Also, FFG, more expansions, please. Money.
There's two, right? There's a one
No,
one expansion or
just the
two.
one. It's
Just
just the
core
one.
set and then the
Rise
Rogue
of the
One
Empire.
expansion.
And you need the Rise of the Rebellion, or you need the expansion to make it a good game, right?
Well, no, it just makes it even better. Like it just amps it
Yeah.
up.
You don't need it, but it makes the combat that much better.
Yeah.
You don't even need to use all the pieces of it. You could just use some of them, and you kind of pick and choose, which is kind of cool. It's not too different from with Outer Rim. They had the unfinished business expansion that was needed to make Outer Rim a decent game. Not that Outer Rim wasn't a bad game, but there just wasn't enough in the core box.
Ooh, shots fired.
Rebellion in it's true. Rebellion in the core box, you've got everything you need. But as Garrett says, Rise of the Empire expansion gives it that extra kick to make it even better.
I want to. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Now,
How long does it take to play a game?
You could do it about 2 hours.
What?
Yeah, you play
2 hours?
Yeah,
My
wife
gosh.
and I
Well,
can play
listen,
it
Ryan,
2
it's
hours.
gonna take us like 3.5.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
2 hours.
I
Get
will
over
bring
here.
it to Adepticon. I will bring it
Mr.
to
Genius.
Adepticon next year. We will play it.
That sounds great.
Okay. Yes.
It'll be fun. It'll be good.
Love it. But yeah, anything else, guys? Good podcast. I feel like we haven't done a command stack in a long time.
It's been a little bit. I think we were going to record one, and then the news dropped, and we all kind of collectively decided, let's give this a little bit of time and kind of think about it.
I'm not in the right headspace right now to record.
Well, like you said, though, Ryan, it was kind of a gut punch. We knew it was coming. I mean, if you didn't know it was coming, then you weren't really paying attention to what had been going on.
All right, here's my
Yeah.
thing. Why even make an announcement? Like ending it. Here's just let us live on and just never officially end the game. Like, why would you come out and just say we're ending it? We're never going to
I'm
produce anymore.
I'm just surprised they stopped printing things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Um,
actually did surprise me. I would have thought they would have continued to print more stuff just to sell it. But
yeah.
if you take what they say at face value and that it is getting expensive, I and let me put it to you this way. If it does cost $130 to make a brand new ISD, I doubt it, but let's just pretend for the sake of argument that's the cost. Would the average normal person pay $200 for an ISD? I mean, right now they are, but
I was gonna say, and like enough people will.
yeah,
I think is the everyone always I never get this, but people say Armada's expensive. It's not
no.
compared to anything else. On the scale.
I mean, I have no idea, right? I have no idea like what market research says people will pay for something. All I know is that I have this monster truck. Okay, my 2-year-old plays with. It's called Sparkle Smash. All right, it's this beautiful. You could almost say it's a miniature. All right, beautifully painted. Beautiful. It's got teeth in it that are individually, that somehow are painted. It was $10 for Sparkle Smash monster truck. Beautiful paint job on it. I don't know how someone managed to do it. So that's again, probably apples and oranges. Probably totally unfair. I realized that, and this is why we didn't record right after the announcement was made. So I'll just say that.
Well, see, yeah, now a month later we get Sparkle Smash.
I was gonna
Yeah.
bring it. I should have brought it on. But
I completely understand, Ryan. I feel like I could go on for hours about like similar IP Star Wars like products that I could purchase at Kroger right now that are equally as detailed. Um,
and we just, again, we don't know any of the factory situation. We don't know any of the logistics, the supply chain. We don't know what the contracts say about who has to, make what. We don't know any of that. We are just on the outside, and we just know at the end of the day, there's no freaking Chewbacca in the game.
yeah. But if you do know and you're out there, slide into our DMs
Yeah,
and let us know.
we'd love to hear.
Yeah. If you play Armada and you're working at that factory, let us know. Send us
Right.
photos.
We'd
And
love to know. We
as the
don't
cricket,
know. We'd love to know. I'd love to read a contract at some point.
Yeah.
So I do it all day at work, reading contracts. I would happily read a contract about Armada. So send it to me.
we're gonna work on that for you, right? So you could read it and give us your legal opinion. So
Yep. Yep.
I think that's gonna probably wrap up today's episode of Command Stack. Definitely want to thank everyone again for those that have supported what we're doing with Ion Radio, the ARC, and definitely huge shout out to the folks at Adepticon that are doing what they can to make sure that this happens. Uh, and until then, we know we've got a whole season of Star Wars that's going to happen in terms of Armada through Atomic Mass Games and Asmodee. So I'm looking forward to it. And any of the GTs or tournaments that I can get to, I will definitely be at Adepticon, as will all of us, we hope. And I'm assuming we're all going. I don't want to speak for anyone else. So
I'm going.
Yes.
I'll be there.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's kind of what I got. Let's see, someone else has a final thought.
I feel like I did, but it's gone. It's just it's escaped. I keep looking at these Hapen battle dragons,
No,
just
we'll
dreaming
be back.
about what could have been.
I had my idea for the battle dragon. Just like a medium armament of like 3 blues and a red or something, but a 360 arc, right? get just the 360 arc, but
And
you get one shot. Something
yeah.
like that. But
And
again,
there's super strong hole, so I don't know,
I'm
12
I'm not a
holes.
game designer. I'm not a play tester. I don't know what's balanced. I just none of that interests me. So, but Battle Dragon, just just the best.
And
Could have
this
been.
is why I am not directly working on anything that Ark is going to be working on,
Yeah, we
because
I we
I'm in that
can't.
same space.
I
So
can't be trusted. I'm a
Yeah, I'm
logistics
not.
guy, all right?
That's not
Logistics.
what I'm at.
I just organize stuff. That's what I
Yeah.
do. I got a silly little YouTube channel, and we're all on a silly little podcast, and but we love it. And shout out to all the fans that I know have approached us also, showing their support as well. We appreciate it. And like Ryan was saying, stop by at Adepticon, say hi, see how our Twilight Imperium / Rebellion game is going to go, which is on the side somewhere. And we'll be playing that all night long, so that we'll be absolutely tired by day 2.
Wow.
Well, yeah,
All right. I think the most important thing is to say Iron Radio is not going anywhere. Command Stack's not going anywhere. We'll be back before you know it.
that we will. So until next time, everyone, I'm Ken,
I'm Garrett.
I'm Ryan.
and you've been listening to Command Stack.